So the day has finally come to build your log cabin. So it'll have been delivered, big pack, covered in plastic, banded together. Open that up, and then the first thing to do is start organising everything. You'll get lots of packers, which I like to use as bearers to put underneath all the wood. As you can see, it's all clearly organised. So when you come to start putting it together, then you know where everything is. It's also really important to make sure you count everything, make sure you've got all the right bits, and then obviously if there is anything missing, let us know and we can get something over to you. You get specific instructions for each pack that you get sent. As you can see, it tells you how to lay the bearers down, the starter logs, how to lay out all the timbers, and you get a nice detailed list of all the different pieces. Okay, so first things first is I've just kind of roughly laid out the treated timber bearers that the cabin will sit on, and then I'm just going to fix the corners of the starter logs in place, and then what we'll do is we'll build up maybe about 2 or 3 logs high, and then we can square it up and level it. When you start fixing the corners together, is make sure you get a screw in the middle of this piece and the middle of those 2 bits, just because otherwise it might bend a little bit, so just to keep it nice and straight. So once you've got your bearers down, your starter logs in place, then it's literally simply a case of just building up all the logs. As they all interlock, what you'll do is you'll do a side one and then a front and back. Sides, front and back, a log at a time as you build it up. Yeah, on some of the cabins, you'll be able to choose which sides you put the windows and the door. So just make sure you've thought about that. And in the instructions, it will tell you how many logs you need to go before the windows go on. And then you've obviously got your smaller pieces to go either side of the windows and in between. Some of the logs can be quite stiff to get into place. So I suggest quite a heavy rubber mallet, but also you'll get some offcuts as packers in the pack. What you can do is you can place it on there and tap it down so you don't damage the tongues on the groove. Okay, as you can see, we're about 5 logs high. Now it's time to make sure and double check you're 100% level and square. So I'm just going to go round with the spirit level to make sure we're nice and level, which we are. Yeah, we're fine there as well. If at this stage you find that the cabin isn't quite level, then I would suggest using some offcuts of timber. And what you can do is, if you lift up the corner, you can just slide a piece under there and then just double check your level. So with a tape measure and a mallet, hold it down and just knock them to where you need them to be. Just going to give it a whack.
Do you fasten these in place?
No, they just stay as they are. Okay, so now we've got all the bearers in place, ready for the floor. The cabin, all the logs are level, so we're just going to make sure it's square. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure corner to corner and make sure they match. If those corners to corners match, then we know we're perfectly square. If it's not square, this is obviously quite over exaggerated. The walls are basically going to be like that. So what you do is you measure corner to corner. On this demonstration, this corner, this length here, is going to be a lot shorter than this length. So what you would do is you would tap this corner up, make sure it's nice and square, and then double check again, corner to corner. We go on the inside of it. So we go inside to inside. So that is 480. Okay, that's 481. So what we need to do is tap this corner that way a touch. So I just need my mallet. So then that should be 485. Yeah, so we double check that one again. Okay, perfect. Now it's time to start getting the windows in. On this particular model, we are 9 logs high. That's when the windows start. It will vary model to model. So yeah, we're 9 logs high. So what we're going to do is it will clearly mark in the instructions which bits go where. So what we do is, you have that log there, and then we do the same on the other side. And then when we get another maybe 4 high, we'll put the windows in place, and then we'll put the centre logs in. So if you find that the cabin is starting to lean as you're building it, what you can do is either with some screws or nails, you can just secure these in place. Okay, now we've got a few more logs high, we can put the windows on. Now the windows, all the frames and the fascias and trims and everything will all be attached. So it'll simply be a case of putting it on this log and then just sliding it up there, and then we'll put the middle logs on. So now we've got the window up on this log. If the camera would like to come a bit closer, you can see all the trims are already made up. So what we do is we literally just drop it on there, and then I'm going to slide it up against these logs. Yeah.
Carl, you can help now.
Like so. Here comes the sea rain. Now we're getting to the final stages of building the logs up. As you'll see, all of these logs are level, and then the two before the roof, just a bit of a decorative detail, that'll be longer, and then the next one will be a bit longer than that, and that helps with the overhang. Do you want it?
Thank you.
Now we've finished the walls. As you can see, the walls are up, the windows are in, the gables are on. So what we're going to do now is put the purlins on, which are the timbers that run from front to back, which will support the roof cladding. Purlins on. I'm now going to start cladding the roof. It's tongue and groove cladding. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get the first one fixed in place, and then keep adding, tapping them in place with a nail gun. You don't have to use a nail gun if you don't have a nail gun. You can just use hammer and nails, but a nail gun will make it a lot quicker. When building a log cabin, do it when it's not raining.
That's the best advice you've given all day.
Okay, we're at the stage now we put the handles on the doors. All the holes will be cut, the lock will all be in there, and it's a simple case of putting the bar in the handle, lining it up, pushing that in, and we'll just get a couple of screws in here to hold it nice and tight. Now it's time to put the handle on the other side of the door. Again, really simply, you just line that up, and then we'll put a few screws in there. What we're going to do now is we're going to square up the doors. So if you have a look up here, you can see that's not aligned, and then if you cast your eye down, the gap gets wider at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we are going to tap the frame that way, which will level this up and it will close that at the bottom. The way I'm going to square up these doors is a bit of timber on the side, hammer, give that a tap, that will just once you're happy that the gap down the middle is equal and all the doors meet up on the top, then you just basically want to put a pin in each corner, because you don't want to restrict the logs being able to move, but you do want to try and just hold that frame in place. Run you through the stages again. First things first is solid level base for you to build the cabin on. Lay out your bearers, get your first few logs on. Then you want to make sure, you want to just double check your level, check your square. Then the windows and doors go in, carry on building the logs. Then you've got your gables that will come together, so you put those corner bits up. Your purlins are the beams that run across here. Then you clad the roof, and then now we are back inside to do the floor. Okay, now it's time to lay the floor. What I like to do is get all the boards inside, make sure they're all facing the right way. So you want the groove up against the wall, the tongue facing away from the wall. If you make sure they're all laid out, all in order, it just makes fitting them so much easier. So what we do, push it against the wall, and then if you've got a second fixed nail gun, great, or you can just use a normal hammer. What I like to do is alternate, so I'll fix in this bearer, this one, that bearer, this one, but then on the next row, on the next board, I will do the alternate ones. What you will find, as you've been working your way across the floor, using the mallet to tap the floorboards together to get a nice tight fit before fixing them in place, we've got a wall now, so you can't get the mallet, the other side of this floorboard, to tap it in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this piece, and then what it will do, it will sit here on a slight angle, and then as we tap that down, it will push these across and it will close that gap. So the gap here is 80 millimeters, but it needs to close that gap up as well. So we're going to measure that gap, which is 50 millimeters. So if we cut this board at 85, then it should close up when we tap it in place. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got the floor down, what we need to do is fit the skirting. It's bull-nose profile skirting that you get supplied with the cabin, and all I'm doing is measuring the distance wall to wall, marking it on the skirting, cutting it, and then using my nail gun, I'll pin it in place. You don't have to use a nail gun, all other nails are supplied. So a top tip, if you haven't got a set square and you need a 90-degree line on a piece of wood, the saw will double up as a 90 and actually a 45 as well. So you find your mark, place your saw on the piece of wood and you've got 90 degrees.
Wow.
Okay, so now we are nearly finished. What we're going to do is fit the storm rods. As you've probably realised by now, none of these are fixed together with any screws or nails. It's just the weight and they interlock. But what we do is we fit the storm rods because if you do get a really strong storm, it can sometimes pull these logs apart. So what we'll do is we fix a screw in the top there, which doesn't move, and then at the bottom you can see there's a groove. So we fix a screw in the middle of the groove, and then that allows the logs to move up and down. So just give that a little tap to get it started, and the same at the bottom. And then I just use an adjustable spanner to screw it in. So it's nearly time to put felt on the roof. So before we do that, as you can see, you've got your roof tongue and groove clad in. What we're going to do is we're going to fit some timber battens under here. So when we fold the felt down and pin the fascia on, there's just more wood basically, so we can get a nice secure fix in. Once you've clad your roof with your tongue and groove boards, you might find that the boards run slightly past the end of the purlins. So what you can either do is with a skill saw, you can cut it back to the purlin, or what I like to do is just add a piece of timber in, and that just gives you a bit more wood to fix your fascias onto. Okay, so when it's time to line up your felt and start stapling, you want to make sure you overlap the bottom about 100 mil, and you always start with the bottom length first, because what you'll do when you put the next one on, you'll overlap it 100 mil, so the rain will just run off. If you start at the top and you have your bottom one over, you'll get water running underneath your felt, which you don't want. Okay, when it's time to start lining up your felt, before you start stapling, you want to make sure you overhang about 100 mil, so you've got plenty to fold down when you come to put the fascias on. And also, you always want to make sure you start with the bottom run first. So when you do the next run, you will lay it over the top 100 mil, so the rain stays on the top. If you start at the top and you put this one over, then what you'll get is the rain and water running underneath the felt, which you don't want.
It looks Spider-Man.
Now I'm about to put the second roll of felt on. Obviously, as I explained earlier, it goes over the top of the first roll. So I'm going to pin that in place, staple it along the top, the middle and the bottom, and yeah, and then it just keeps the rain out of your lovely wooden roof. Okay, now we're fitting the fascias. It's the last job of the cabin build. As you can see, I've got my felt down, I've tacked it in place so it doesn't move. I like to use a nail gun because it's nice and fast. You don't need to. You can either use screws or just a normal nail. So you hold it in place like so. You want to go in the end of the purlins to give it a nice secure fit. And then just work your way along, making sure you get in the purlin like so. The last finishing touch is the finial. Basically it just covers the join of the fascia and just gives it a nice decorative finish. So you want to make sure it's nice and in line, and just pop a few nails in it to hold it in place. Now we've finished building your lovely log cabin. There's a few things you need to remember. These logs will expand and contract over the different weather conditions. So when they get a bit damp, they'll get bigger, and in the sun, in the summer, they will shrink a bit. But that's perfectly natural, so don't worry about that. Just bear in mind, if you're putting some shelves on the wall, you know, it's okay to fix shelves like maybe across a couple of logs, but don't fix any railings that go along the whole height of the wall, because then the logs won't be able to move. We strongly recommend that you get it painted on the outside within a couple of weeks of installation, and just basically keep an eye on the maintenance. Just make sure you're checking for any expansion cracks, any joins that start loosening. Keep an eye on the felt as well, because sometimes any birds or rubbish, debris coming off trees may damage it. But apart from that, you're good to go.